the world's largest stone weighing in at more than 1,000 tons. Truly astonishing facts about Jerusalem and Egypt. What secret technologies were used to create all these things? I'll show you everything in today's video. I've never spent so much time creating a single video, so I'll be very grateful if you watch until the end and leave a comment. Number 10. Nasca Lines of Peru. Are there any people who haven't heard of the Nasca Desert and its drawings? Currently, there are 1,300 lines and figures that are more than 1,000 years old. The meaning behind the creation of such large-scale drawings remains a mystery to us. All we know is that an incredibly large area of land has been cleared of stones through some unknown methods. Most of the drawings can only be seen from sufficient height, some still visible 600 kilometers away in space. This means that the authors must have found it easy to get high enough for a perspective. Many people know about Nasca, but did you know that bizarre geoglyphs were also found on the Palpa Plateau, 20 kilometers north of Nasca? Geoglyphs here are no less mysterious. Lines, trapezoids, figures and drawings, maze and Indian mandala. It appears that we are faced with an even greater amount of work that we have not yet understood. Number 9. Japan. Japan is by all means a modern, well-developed country at the forefront of technology. But there is evidence that long before the known history of this country, there was a no less advanced civilization. For example, let's take a look at the tomb of Ishubatai Kafun. It is built of huge 100-ton stones. We don't know why the builders needed to build a tomb so huge and how they succeeded, suggesting as if ancient inhabitants of Japan had huge cranes. If we look at it from the side, the tomb resembles a hangar. In a dense forest, near a small hill, lies a huge boulder, Masuda Iwafun, weighing 800 tons and 5 meters high. The appearance is simply astounding. The thoughtful asymmetry of the bowls, its high quality processing, and it's definitely had a technical purpose. There are no historical documents about the construction of Masuda. Examination of the stones showed many traces of cobalt, a quite rare and very durable metal, which is now used for making expensive parts for vehicles. Japan can also boast of the megalith Ishi no Hoden, weighing in at 600 tons. It was made by removing the stone structure around the rock with a total weight of more than 100 tons. What remained was transformed to the shape of a cube, with a hollow from one side. Scientists tried to explain the subject with ultrasound twice, but they were unsuccessful. People say that Ishi no Hoden reminds them of a support for power lines. Also in the country of the rising sun, there is the Devil's Chamber Pot, otherwise known as the Tomb of Oni no Setchin. It's a flat granite slab weighing about 30 tons, called an altar of black magic. Finally, you can find the underwater ruins of Yonaguni at the bottom of the ocean, which houses many mysteries. Number 8. China. Many of you may be surprised to hear of the pyramids in China, but there's a lot of them. The Chinese pyramid embankments are oriented to the sides of the earth, and some are even larger than the Egyptian pyramids. According to the latest data, about 300 pyramids have been found in China, and 100 of these being well preserved. There's a whole valley of pyramids. China's pyramids are so low in the top 10 just because we know so very little about them, because the Chinese authorities have officially banned their research. Scientists around the world have been trying to gain access to the Chinese pyramids for almost half a century. Even the trees on the hills are planted in straight rows, specifically to disguise the pyramids, making them look like natural structures. The most accessible of all the pyramids of this region is the White Pyramid. According to one version, the White Pyramid is the tomb of the first emperor of China from the Qin dynasty. Number 7. Turkey. In Turkey, there are several sites that tell an interesting tale. One of them is Hattusa, formerly a huge fortress. It is hard to walk by foot from one gate to another. On its territory, there are a huge number of blocks with clear traces of mechanical processing. But what is truly amazing is the Aladyahoyuk complex. There is polygonal masonry of large blocks with uneven cross-sections and millimeter-thin joints. All this is similar to masonry found in Peru, which we'll talk about later. Here, we see large blocks of some ancient buildings lying amongst the ruins. It seems to be some completely destroyed, very old construction. Number 6. Mexico. One of the earliest translations of the city of Teotihuacan is the place where the gods flew from. The ancient city of the gods is considered the center of Mayan culture, but there's evidence suggesting that its original builders predated the Maya, were a highly developed civilization. When the city was found, it was completely covered with soil. Pyramids have been restored more than once, so they are covered with ordinary small stones. But there is a place where tourists are not allowed, where the original stones are stacked, which were left unused during the restoration, and they are really a sight to behold. You can also find a staircase leading to nowhere. Many notice that the arrangement of the 3 pyramids of Teotihuacan relative to each other is very similar to the pyramids of Giza in Egypt. This fact, and many others, suggest that these pyramids most likely have the same architects. Polygonal masonry here is very similar to the masonry in Egypt, and the pyramid of Kolua exceeds even the famous Egyptian pyramid of Cheops. Number 5. Easter Island. Easter Island is the second most distant island in the world. But surprisingly, the island even has its own authentic written language, Rongo Rongo. The concept of mana, the strength of the spirit, the inner energy, which is well known in popular culture, took its roots from here. Locals call this island Rapa Nui, and it's known for its platform, with statues called Tangarit. According to one theory, these are statues of the dead leaders of the island. But few people know that there are roughly 890 such statues on the island. All the statues are made of a single piece of rock. Some stand alone, many face the ground. The platforms on which the statues are mounted imply that this was impossible to do with simple stone tools. They are made of large stones of very hard rock. There are signs of polygonal masonry. In the quarry where the hats for the statues were made, there were found ancient propellers made by some mechanical tools. There are very flat slices on the rocks, like rocks cut with machine tools, and also the fingerprints. It seems the rocks were melted and then somebody played with them like with clay. It turns out that there was a massive production of such statues. But what were all these statues for? Number 4. Israel. There are 2 places in Israel where past civilization had left its mark. The first is the fortress of Nimrod. Under its walls you can find ruins of huge blocks coming in at almost 40 tons, a section of a spiral staircase carved from a single block, 8-meter-high ceilings. It is called the Fortress of Nimrod, who according to ancient legends was a giant and a builder of a fortress. It is not difficult to guess that the second place we will name is the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. The total brick volume of the Temple Mount corresponds to the volume of the average Egyptian pyramid. In the archaeological park, the wall around the Temple Mount consists of huge blocks with a very high level of stone processing. Here you can find a block of 600 tons and a length of 12 meters, which was lifted up by layers of medium-sized blocks. The tunnel of the western wall, where excavations are still taking place, also deserves attention. Archaeologists have already descended several floors down, and the end of the masonry is still not visible. 40 meters down, 18 layers underground, and this megalith is still not alone here. No sane person now would think it possible to do without the help of heavy equipment. The stone processing style, size of the blocks, the general appearance of the masonry, the holes, are almost identical with indicators in Baalbek, perhaps even built by the same architects. Number 3. Egypt. There are more than 100 pyramids in Egypt. 7 of them are radically different from the rest in the methods and technologies of their construction. They look so outstanding in the picture of the primitive society of ancient Egypt that it is possible to advance the theory of their creation by a previous civilization that had reached a very high technological level. The pyramids are built with precision that they reach the limits of modern-day tools. The contrast is striking. In Egypt, you can find an incredible amount of facts turning our view of history upside down. 100-ton sarcophagi confounding even modern-day technology when trying to reproduce them. Processed boulders with polished, curved surfaces, cutouts accurate, almost machine-level precision, cuttings with tubular drills, and more. The number of stunning things is vast. The Red Pyramid, however, is the most striking. The ideal planes of the walls, corridors, and chambers, magnificent blocks of masonry. The bent pyramid called Snefru demonstrates the high quality of the masonry. The medium pyramid is constructed from large standardized blocks. The naked eye can see that the blocks were aligned after laying. It's hard to believe that the inclined surface, an area equal to that of a basketball court, was leveled by hand. Inside the tunnel, there are blocks with perfectly smoothed edges. Many questions arise from the strange placement of the entrance to the pyramid. So far, historians have found no logical explanation for all of this. The granite temple in Karnak consists of immense pillars, and the quality of masonry is simply amazing. The complex of Khufu on the plateau of Giza consists of 100-ton blocks. The huge granite blocks of the Osirian complex are laid with great skill. According to the inscriptions, here is the grave of the god Osiris. The granite temple near the Sphinx is built of massive blocks that would impress anyone. In the quarry, you can find the trail of a giant machine, which cut off the granite wall, and also a giant obelisk, which was left in the quarry, carved from a single huge piece of granite rock. And finally, here in Egypt, there are the giant statues, colossi of Memnon. Thousands of tons of quartzite, one of the hardest natural materials. They require even harder tools than quartzite to work with them. For comparison, in order to install a 100-ton granite block for the monument of Zhukov in Moscow, the help of a tank division was needed. The colossi of Memnon weighs 7 times more. This weight exceeds the capacity of the most powerful modern cranes. This work is the envy of any modern sculptor. Number 2. The Baalbek complex is an indisputable world leader of scale in the giant size of the blocks and columns from which it is built. It is considered a temple of the ancient god Baal. According to one of the legends, King Nimrod sent giants to restore Baalbek after the flood. In the basement of the Baalbek temple terrace are 3 blocks twice the average human height, 11 meters long and weighing 650 tons. Imagine that each of these blocks weighs equivalent to 7 tanks. The joints between the blocks are almost invisible. Even a dollar bill couldn't fit. Classical history claims that the authors were Romans, but doesn't it seem strange that at the center of their empire, they built cities that turned to ruins, but somewhere far, far away, they made a gigantic work of art that stood the test of time. Perfectly processed columns, a mega fence of giant blocks, steps carved from monolithic stone. There are traces of mechanical stone processing left by a rapidly rotating circular saw. We can confidently say that during the construction of the complex, there was a mass production of huge stones. If you are not already impressed, we recommend you visit a quarry near Baalbek. There lies a block weighing more than 1,000 tons, and it is called the Southern Stone. It's something beyond imagination. It feels like a total surrealism. When archaeologists dug even deeper under this stone, they found 2 even heavier stones. One of these stones is called the Janine Stone, which is still considered to be the heaviest processed stone in the world. 20 meters long, 6 meters wide, it weighs 1,650 tons, which equals the combined weight of 6 of the heaviest aircraft in history. Ukraine's Anatov AN-225s. By comparison, the world's most powerful crane can lift and transport a maximum of 1,200 tons at a time. But do you still think that ancient Hittites or Assyrians cut such behemoths and were going to roll them on logs? Number 1. Peru and Bolivia. The mighty walls of the citadel Ollantaytambo are capable of capturing anyone's curiosity. They are assembled from immense blocks, which sometimes reach tens of tons, but are adjusted to each other with amazing accuracy, despite not only rectangular joints, but also bizarre forms. Even more spectacular are the blocks that form the lining of the central platform and reach about 4 meters in height. All of this on the top of the winding terraces, which are difficult to reach without any help. Historians believe that the Inca built the complex. The quarry from which the blocks were delivered is located 5 kilometers from the complex, on the opposite side of the valley, which is separated by the Maya River. It's challenging to comprehend how huge 100-ton blocks could be transported across a rough mountain river. We can see that the architects use the logic of deviations from standards. There's no unification of blocks. They are all different sizes, which indicate that it is easy for them to work with such stones. This type of masonry gives significantly good seismic resistance. The so-called tired stones lie on the way from the quarry to the complex, weighing 60 and even more tons. The Peruvian historian Garcilaso de la Vega described in his book that one of the Inca leaders, wanting to strengthen his authority, gathered 20,000 men and ordered them to raise one of the tired stones on the mountain. The story ended tragically. A huge rock fell and thousands of Incans died. Even now, the local authorities cannot remove one of the tired stones blocking half the road. The quality of processing ancient blocks of solid black basalt is simply impressive. It's completely incompatible with what the Incas did. That's more in line with machine work. Polygonal masonry strikes with perfect joints and the absence of any stone solution. There is an interesting version to this story, according to which the complex was partially destroyed by the flood. After that, the Incas settled there and tried to restore the complex. Looking at the graceful shapes of buildings, the perfect joints of blocks, and the smooth shapes of the cutouts, you realize that there's no sense to talk about primitive technologies. It's more like rock-cutting industry. Even many of the locals claim that most of the buildings in Peru were built by a civilization that existed 10,000 years ago. To make sure of this, it is only necessary to look at a giant megalithic gate or the complex of Sacsayhuaman, more like an airstrip or a launch shaft, or Machu Picchu, storing examples of insane stone processing techniques. The stones and rocks here are cut in completely random directions. The Kenko and Kenko 2 complex, which resembles a scientific base or radar station, a 12-corner stone, double staircases, all this is simply incredible. It seems that such designs were molded as if from clay by giants. Very high-tech tools, such as circular saw blades, tools with fine diamond dust, water jet cutting, laser, and even technologies unknown to us today could have been used. All this makes this region the winner of our top places, where a highly developed alien civilization left behind traces.